Bare stressende, når man ved ikke, om folk kan komme på, eller om de bare ikke er der. Nice. We got someone from the outside.
Nice.
I was doubting whether or not anyone could join.
If not, it would have been a presentation only for me, which I still would have.
I don't. Yeah, but we also have outside presentations. Thomas, kan du høre os?
Ja, jeg håber i lige måde.
Sagtens, ja.
Beklager, jeg ikke kunne være der i dag, men sådan går det nogle gange.
Ja, det skal nok lykkes en gang. I'll just switch to English because we have Daniel here,
Yes.
and he's still learning Danish, as we say.
Yes. For the 9th year in a row.
For the 9th year in a row, yeah. Perfect. Hello, Carolina.
You're on mute.
You are still on mute.
Hi guys, how are you all?
So, hello.
Oh, the Las Vegas office.
Yeah, I like the Las Vegas background.
Yeah,
Is that
you
new
should
fancy,
join. Probably gonna be a lot of fun.
They built this new fancy music stadium with like a huge sphere of LEDs around it. Did you see that when you were there?
I
Oh yeah,
actually,
the globe.
We
I
have to.
actually
Yes,
haven't
we
been
can.
to Las Vegas Inspire yet.
Okay, because that would be like a major attraction for me, a major reason to go actually. See that thing.
No, but I mean, you guys should definitely check out the Grand Prix or Inspire in general. So it's gonna be a lot of fun event.
Yeah, probably.
You gotta
Sure.
convince Lubo to pay for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Do that happily, I'm sure. Hello to Ahmad and to Connie.
Hello. Hello.
Pleased to meet you.
Thank you as well.
Just,
So should we introduce ourselves or?
I think we'll just wait a few minutes to collect more attendees. I think they'll be joining. We still got people coming. I know we have a colleague from here who will come. So I think we'll just wait a few minutes before we
course.
start. Time I can find my slides. Wait one more minute. I think that minute has passed. Why don't I start by sharing my screen here? Station rolling. this, so you should have some nice graphics from me now, I hope.
Yes.
Excellent. So yeah, welcome to the Alteryx Nordics User Group, the second meeting for Q4. By doing this meeting, we will now be qualifying ourselves to become an official group, which, as I understand it from Alteryx, will give us some more opportunities to get some promotion to grow further. Is that right, Carolina?
Hi, yes, that is correct. So some of you might have seen the community pages with the different user groups. And once the Nordic user group is an official user group, so past the 2 first trial meetings, then it also becomes more official, and it also makes it a lot easier easier to grow and for more people to follow.
Right.
Perfect. Perfect. Speaking about growing,
Hi, guys.
You hand into the meeting room.
Sorry, I'm late.
We just grew by 1 just because of that.
We're not 14 as I can see, but
No. We'll get there, I'm sure.
we will get there.
So yeah, the agenda for today, not like last time, the same structure. We're going to do a little welcome session and present the user group leaders. Then we'll present everyone here, tell who we are. Then we'll talk about what do we want from this user group. There will be some community updates from Alteryx that I'll try and relay, a little bit of news. Then we have 2 presentations lined up. First, the fantastic title of Cotton Eye Joe. Actually, it's even longer title, but I didn't get that here. We'll get to that later. And then we have the second presentation, Do More with Less. And then we'll talk about what the next steps are from here, and we'll do a little survey in the end. Yeah. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm recording this meeting here, and I'm going to share it to the community. The first meeting is already online, so you can re-experience it as many times as you want on YouTube. And feel free to use the chat box, turn on your camera if you're comfortable with that, and say as much as you want. So, like I said before, this is the second Nordics User Group meeting. The structure of these things is that it is supported by Alteryx. They provide some logistical help with it, but it is totally up to us as the participants to decide what we want to do with this. And we can talk negative about Alteryx if we want. We can talk positive. We can do anything that we want and collaborate in any way that we want. I think that's important to say. We also have to do these meetings 4 times a year to maintain our status as an active group. And we're pretty well on the way to achieving that. So the user group leaders, we have Johan Christensen sitting right behind me, BI business analyst here at NKT Photonics. We are a laser manufacturing company located north of Copenhagen in Denmark, with about 500 employees and a handful of data nerds, which most of them are sitting in this room right now. And of course, we're using Alteryx and have been doing so since 2019. Then we have Jos Wamberg from Peak Wind. I didn't see if he actually joined already. Are you there, Jos, somewhere? Doesn't seem like it. I wrote to him a few days ago, but maybe he will join. He gave a presentation the last time. I have myself, also NKT Photonics. I'm a senior data engineer. And then we have the support person from Alteryx, Flavia Brancato from Italy, I think it is, helping us out. I didn't see Flavia there on the list either, right?
Flavia is based at Alteryx headquarters, so she's on a different time zone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the US time zone.
Is she in the US? I thought she was in Europe.
Her parents are Italian or Italian descendants, at least.
Okay.
She's based there.
She's in the US. Okay.
All right. Good to know.
Well, I guess enough about the user group leaders. Let's hear it from the participants here. If you could go around the table and basically just say who you are, where you're located, the company you're working in, and what you're doing in this company.
Don't be shy. Anybody can go first.
Yeah. Maybe I'll call them out here. We can say,
Yeah,
like,
do that.
let's just take them from the order here in the window here. Carolina, did you give a short presentation of yourself?
Absolutely. So, hi everyone. My name is Carolina, and I'm one of the account executives from Alteryx side here in the Nordics. So, working with many customers from, well, everything from Iceland to Finland, of which at least 2 of my lovely customers are in the room here today.
Right.
Yeah, so that's briefly about me then.
Yeah, thank you. And then let's go take it away with Mikael Hyensjö.
Yes, hello. My name is Mikael Hyensjö, and I'm based in Sweden. I'm working for Alteryx as a sales engineer. So if you have any technical issues or problems, I can help you out with that. And I'm just here to listen in. So that's me.
Good to know. Always nice to get more engineers on board.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. We have Thomas Nielsen.
Yes, that's right. Thomas, I'm based in Denmark, working at a company called Gripe, where I'm the business analyst and therefore also working a lot with Alteryx.
Thomas, you were even trying to get here today, right?
Yeah, but I got some flu, so I'm staying away from everybody at the moment.
Probably a good thing.
So probably sometime in the future we'll manage to
Yeah.
reach out.
Next meeting.
Sure. Could be fun.
Yes,
Could
3
be fun.
months. 3 months.
Thank you. And then we have Ahmad.
Yes, so I'm here with Rune from Denmark. We are part of the data team here at Gladsaxe Kommune municipality. Yeah, I do a lot of data science and analysis here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I can continue. Thank you for the presentation. I'm Rune, and I'm the colleague of Ahmed. And beside of also working with our data, I also have system admin role regarding to our Alteryx and also Tableau environment. But let's stick to Alteryx here.
Great.
Yeah.
Then we have Conny Johansson.
Yes, that's me. I'm located in Stockholm. I work at a company called Prognoscentret. We do a lot of prognosis regarding the buildings in the Nordics and how many will be built next years and so on. We are 2 Alteryx users in Stockholm and 4 or 5 in Oslo, 4 maybe. So we have a few Alteryx users at least in the company. So that's me.
Excellent. So I think you're actually the one right now giving us the title of the Alteryx Nordics User Group. You're the first one outside of Alteryx,
Yeah,
outside
great.
of Denmark.
Great.
So thank you for
Yeah, and we actually had a Alteryx user group in Stockholm before, but we don't have it right now. So and I think it's a good idea to have a kind of user group that we can talk together and see
Cool.
and so
Sure.
on.
Agree.
Then we have Carola van der Linden.
Yeah, hello everyone. Indeed, my name is Carola. I'm based out of the Netherlands, working for Alteryx, and I'm responsible for field and partner marketing for both the Benelux and the Nordic countries. So if there's any questions related to marketing, I will do my best to answer them.
Great. Thank you, Carola.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
think that was everyone. Did anyone get left out here? I don't think so. Yeah, and actually for me, I'd just like to add that like I was at a local event in Copenhagen 3/4 of a year ago, which was like a little bit like the Alteryx Inspire or the Data Innovation Summit meeting in Stockholm. But there it was like all people from Copenhagen, and I really saw like the value of local people, and I was surprised by how many local Alteryx users there were. I'm still working on getting many of them to participate in this meeting, and I'm not going to give up anytime soon. But anyway, the value of just talking locally, I think, is fairly high. So I hope that you guys will agree on that, so that we're not wasting our time here. Okay, so a little bit of ideas about what we hope to get out of this. It could be good just to try and go around the table about to hear what your expectations are and what your ideas are for things that we could do.
And this is completely up for grabs. So whoever has a good idea. Of course, it shouldn't be forced. Welcome to put up your hand during the meeting to see if anything makes sense in terms of, yeah, Thomas has something.
Yeah, well, yeah. Personally, what I hope to get out from these user group meeting is obviously to meet other people who are using Alteryx and hear about how they use Alteryx, and what perhaps is their pain points, or is there any use bugs there tricking them to work otherwise. But I mean, that's basically my everyday life, working with the Alteryx workflows and Alteryx server. Something works and something doesn't, and then you have to figure out why. So widen it out in a user group sometimes can be helpful, but also get the input on other people are using the product, because maybe they're using it in a way you didn't know it could be used for.
Mm-hmm. I would think for me personally, I've been to several meetings where we hear all about different use cases and we hear everything about how fantastic everything is. And we almost never at these meetings hear about nitty-gritty things that can bother us in our everyday life. And so I don't want to be negative, but I also like to talk about, you know, what are the negative experiences? What are the problems that we're having? Where are we struggling? It's always also great to hear about all the positive success stories that we've achieved, and I'm sure that we can all tell them. But it's also like small everyday things that can be irritating. For instance, maybe someone has solved them because they were irritating at some time, but they fixed it, and then it could help other people. But just to share experiences like that, interesting. And also, there's like outside of the details of Alteryx, there's also the whole relationship about how do we what's the business relationship that we're in? I mean, are we dealing with Alteryx directly? Are we using a local consultant company? Who is that consulting company? Are they good or bad? What are the experiences with all of this? The experience of purchasing and interacting with Alteryx in that sense, I think could also be interesting.
Otherwise, we can also wrap up in the end if something pops up for people. That often makes sense whenever we get talking and the ideas start flowing. So don't hesitate if anything pops up during the meeting as well, because it might come from out of nowhere.
Any other comments before we continue? So on to the community updates. So these were the things that were sent to me by Flavia. There's a new version, which is either coming right up or already came, 23.2. So this is, again, focused a lot on the Alteryx cloud experience, which we're not using. I don't know if anyone else in the group is using Alteryx cloud. No?
No.
Nope. Actually, at some point, maybe I'd like to have an Alteryx person explain me what the Alteryx cloud version provides us that the versions, can we call them the desktop and the server versions that we are already using cannot provide. That could be interesting to hear, because that's not quite clear to me at this time. And then I know that this version here also supports the Databricks Unity catalog, improvements in the data connection manager, And there's this way of sharing data, I think a little bit like Snowflake can also do, where you can share data over a marketplace. And a really, really nice, like my favorite feature in this new version is this macro issue. Like often when you move workflows around, suddenly the macro is just gone and replaced by a black icon. And you have a hard time finding out what was that original macro. This has been much improved in this latest version of Alteryx. So I think that's my personal favorite. And then like everyone else is jumping on the AI bandwagon, including the OpenAI bandwagon, we're also gonna get to see an OpenAI connector. I think that'll also be quite interesting.
Actually, already internally here at NKTP, just to give a idea of how you can use OpenAI, or at least the connectors. We tried something which I don't recall the name of, but the idea was to give a description of the workflow that you fill in. You know, documentation is often one of the things that you neglect when you're creating new workflows. So we thought, okay, let's give OpenAI a test. That maybe needs some tweaking, because the overall thing that it did was just to explain that you're using select tools and formula tools, and that data is coming from a certain input. So, I mean, we're going somewhere, but there's still a long way to go. So let's see how the next one is going to perform. But the good thing is that it worked fairly good, the connector.
Didn't take like a very long time as well.
No, but there were some limitations to the max. Ahmad, you have a question? All right.
Yeah, does anyone know if that connector is compatible with the Azure endpoint of the API?
That's a good question.
Maybe our Alteryx.
Yeah, Mikael first.
Mikael?
I don't know that question really. I can check it and come back to you guys around that, but I can do that.
And is there any plans to introduce, or is it in the working, a co-pilot setup?
Yes, it is. It will come in Q2 here, something like that. That's something we can have in the next session, I think, in 3 months.
Okay.
So there will come a lot more products when it comes to the generative AI space. It is a lot of things going on. I can guarantee that.
Mikael, you're gonna give us a fly-in, sounds like, of the Microsoft thing next meeting.
Yeah, I think you know, the next time we meet up, you know, in 3 months, I think it's a perfect timing to have a slot here where I can have some talk about that kind of topics. I think that could be quite good.
Cool.
And I agree that the summarize tool there, it's not, you know, it's the first version we have. It's not, you know, it's not perfect, but it gives you some, you know, information about where you pick the data from and things like that. But you can add so much more. So I think that will come here as well as soon as possible. So yeah.
Yeah, the best thing is that you're actually just starting to at least play around with the idea. So that's
exactly,
that's
yeah.
a good thing.
And there has been a great how to say, many customers are liking that we are taking this approach and that we're doing some, you know, components for it. So I think it will grow quite quickly here. So.
Cool. I just noted down that you'll have something for the next meeting. I'll give you a time.
Yeah, do that. Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. Thanks.
Perfect. I know for me personally, if I'm programming in VBA or Python, I really love interacting with the ChatGPT assistants and having them helping out with me with my programming, also in SQL, Power Queries and things like this. It's really powerful, and I would really love to have something like that in Alteryx, which is not really possible right now since it's a kind of a graphical programming language, so it's not really this text-based interface that all these chatbots are really good at. But that's like a really sad thing. I would just love if I could talk to it and say, hey, I need a workflow that can do this and this. And it says, certainly, Michael, here it's coming.
It's like a terminal you can actually access.
Because that you can do in VBA and Python and other platforms.
Pretty sweet.
I mean, I would say I started using GitHub Copilot not so long time ago, and that experience has been mind-blowing in terms of developing in Python and scripting in general. So I could really recommend that if there's any Python developers out there to just test the Copilot. I think you can go for a month of a free trial. The integration with the IDE is amazing, and to see that in Alteryx, I mean, in the end, the workflow is in XML, and some language models are really good at generating XML output. So I can't see why you wouldn't be able to have just as good of an experience within the like designer or the cloud editor. That would be amazing to see.
There's a reason for optimism. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Okay.
15 minutes in and we're already talking AI.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go through these other things here. Then there's the Alteryx Cloud platform, the Designer Cloud. I think none of us are really using it. I have a little bit of hard time seeing what we really can add value to our business right now. So we're not really moving into this. I don't have so much to say about that. And then there's the education platforms that Alteryx provides, which I really, really like. There's the learning marketplace. I think this is where you can pay to participate. And there's the academy, which is very, very well built, and there's a lot of stuff to go in there. And the weekly challenges are really, really fun and very informative. And also these learning paths and interactive lessons that use them as well. I never really played with the certifications, but I know that you have done that, right, Johan?
Yeah, I'm certified.
That was
Sure.
yeah. That's also nice. A lot of stuff going on there. And there's this a chance to participate in the user experience research panel. So if you have things that you want Alteryx to hear, then I think this is a really, really great way of signing up and having the possibility of being heard.
Quick thing to add here, Mikael, maybe you know, is there gonna be any AI things in the user experience research panel? Carolina, maybe you also know.
Short version, I have no idea. I can look it up, but I'm curious to see if one of my colleagues knows a bit more. Maybe Mikael, Carola, Tanya, you're also on the call.
So what the question there? Can you just, where would you like to see the AI functionality in what?
Well, it's not in a lot of areas, but nothing specific. It's more of a, if you're rolling out things, for example, the thing with the Copilot and these interesting areas where it's really moving quickly. Be interesting if you are implementing those kind of things, if that would be in the experience research panel, because I think that would also be like a carrot on a stick for a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah, I do know that there are a lot of development at the moment, and we will, you know, in a short time of period here, you know, release more and more functionalities. So I can check if we can have some, you know, information we can, you know, publish as well, so you know what's going to happen. But there is daily changes here on releases, so to speak. So I can see what we can have and what we can release for you guys.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, continuing. There's this podcast here. I've heard one episode of it, and is it weekly or monthly? It's certainly quite active, I would say. And I guess that was the community contributions from Alteryx. Now we have 2 presentations.
Yes.
And I was so rude to put you first, Johan. I should have put
I think that makes sense, because mine is basic, high level. Let's put it like that. It is
Short and sweet.
Start and sweet. All right, I'll join the meeting and then I will share my screen. So while I'm joining the meeting, I'll just give you a quick fly-in as to what I thought would make sense, because a lot of us obviously create a lot of macros, and it is more than often something that we create. Let's see, can you see my screen? Maybe you should join on that one, Michael. Let's see.
On this, can I hear? I was just joining from up.
There we go. All right, perfect. So let's see if I have the correct one open here. All right, so this is gonna be, in the beginning, I'm not gonna go into depth, but as most of you guys know, there are 3 different types of macros that you can use. If you want to have a visualization of which macros that is, I don't have it here, but it is there you go. It's a standard macro, it's a batch macro, and it's an iterative macro. So here at NKTP, the existing setup we have was something that we made back in the days in 2019, actually. And we use all kinds of macros. The first one, I'm just going to briefly touch on this. This is not the detail, it's just to give you an idea. It's the iterative macro. We use that to download the data that we have from D365. So what we do is that we do an OData call and then download whatever data we have to that specific entity, and then we'll use that. And obviously, it's not something that we're proud of, and it is something that we're transitioning away from. But that's one of the macros that we use. That's the iterative. That means that we will run it until there's nothing left. You have the batch macro, and obviously you'll run things in batches, and then the standard macro is often used if you have something that can be used in a lot of different workflows. For example, we have a lot working with currencies. So you obviously have a currency macro where you'll just have to input various data, and then you're good to go. But enough about NKTP and the macros that we've made ourselves. It's also interesting to see some of the macros that are available by other people and macros that are really used by a lot of people. And some of those macros are from a team called Crew. And most of you will most likely be familiar with Crew. Some of you may not. Crew stands from Chaos Reigns Within. And when I started my adventure with using Alteryx at Invisor, now known as Devo Team, the first thing that we did was download the Crew macro package. So if you haven't done that already, I can highly recommend it. There are a lot of cool built-in macros that you can use. To give you an idea of what we have, if we go into the download page, macro, and then you'll have a set of various macros that you can use. And if we sort it by the type, we can do macros. You have a total row, you have key square test, dynamic formula, the list goes on and on. But the thing that really interests me personally, given that I also spend a lot of time on the Alteryx server and generally cover a lot of the runs that we have, is the Crew list runner and the log parser. And the obvious question is, what is the list runner? If a lot of you guys haven't heard about it, it's a thing about running all your workflows without having to open them. If you're working with servers, this is going to be a lifesaver. If you're not working with servers, it's still going to be a lifesaver because it will allow you to do a run of everything in a certain directory, which in this case is just linked up to a sample directory. Be able to find the string, and as you can see below here, we'll have the full path, we'll have a directory, file name, and then the list goes on and on with different fields that this matter is not going to be important. I chose to focus on the last 5. You can also sort them, so you have it in a specific order. We numberize all the workflows we have, so we know that it's going to run as intended and not start with the end and finish with the beginning. And what you then do is that you just select the full path, you run it, and if you're interested, you can always open the macro. I already did that. And it will feed you into an endless loop of sub macros that ultimately is the list runner. Now, this is where it becomes interesting because when you do the run, this is just the basic list runner if you open it directly from the Crew macro file. We added some things on top of it because you obviously want to get some information out of it. But if you run it, you can see that 4 out of 5 succeeded and the last one failed. But we don't know why or anything. And even though you use the browse tool, you're not necessarily going to get the information that you want. And this is where the log parser is going to be interesting. You don't need to configure this. It is already pre-configured. So if you have a list runner, just plug your log parser directly into the canvas, and then you'll be able to see what engine are we running on, you know, all these different informations. And you'll also get the error. The error is down here as the no field selected for row total. And instead of having 33 different records isolated, so we only look at the error, and then you'll get the message. You'll have a module. This is obviously how it's maybe done in the crew macro environment. And you'll get the error, you have a module, and you can then see what was the error. Now, we're going to go to the setup that we have. It is basic in terms of we're still doing a lot of the things that you're doing in the crew macro environment, meaning that we have a directory. This union is completely irrelevant, didn't remove it, so it's just there. We regex, selected, you know, full path. I know I didn't run it, I should have done that. We have a way of looking at it, and we don't want to look at the archives or the backups, and all these things will make sure that we only look at the path that we're interested in. Now, why is this useful, and how can we actually avoid opening 500 million different list runners to see what actually happened? We altered the crew macro, as you remember from before. This is the standard crew macro that you open. This is the only thing you'll see. What we did is that we altered it a little bit, and we added certain things to it. What we did is we obviously added the log parser, which is relevant because we want to see what the error actually is. And you have the different modules. You have a given date when the run was. Obviously, it's going to be a date time now, since this one is this is just going to show us the various modules that we have, modules being workflows. And what we then do is, after we've taken the parsed out error, take this specific workflow, we'll join them together, we'll get the error. If there's no error, it will just be blank, which is completely fine. And then we'll append all of it together, because some of them are going to fail, some of them are not going to fail.
Yeah.
And it is going to end up, now we use in database tools because they're more than often a little bit faster. And so this is also configured. So if I try to run it now, it wouldn't run. It's configured towards a different environment. And it'll be in a Alteryx logs database. And from there, we then decided to create what we call the Alteryx server monitor. And what this monitoring tool is capable of is, whenever we have I can show you here, what's happened. So as you can see, no runs at the moment, because thankfully everything is going as we wanted to, after a long time of ups and downs and trial and errors. And then in here, you'll be able to visualize all the workflows you have during the night. You'll be able to see what the errors was. So let's see, for example, this one, check and balance. I know that's something you're working on, Daniel.
Mhm.
You'll be able to see. Usually it's a little bit faster, but right now I'm on the wireless. All right, no errors. That is a great showcase example. Do another one. This, for example, wait a second. So you can see crew, wait a second, blah, blah, blah. Weren't able to access a specific folder. So we are not able to access that specific folder. And what I can then do is I'll be able to right click, copy it, copy the value. This is the module full path. And what I would then be able to do is I could go in here, simply insert it. Everything is UNC path. That is extremely important. What this will give you is will point me directly to the workflow that's failing. Now, in this case, it will run because, as you saw before, it is a Y file path, meaning it's not a UNC, so it'll be able to run it locally. This is quickly fixed if you want to go into advanced option, workflow dependencies, and then all UNC. And I managed to fix a problem that I would probably have had to investigate in a different way. And this may seem like a small, tiny thing, but when you're developing things or when you're actually debugging or whatever you might be doing, it's extremely nice to have because it will just make everything faster. I'll save it, and then hopefully tomorrow it will run as intended. And this is just one of the ways that you can use the crew macros and then modify them a teeny tiny bit. And by doing so, every list run that we have will have these everything you see here is implemented in all the list runners that we have. So whenever we create something new, we have a standard procedure, and then we'll always be able to track changes and could go back in time if we do any changes in terms of, upgrading or whatever might be the case. Let's say we upgrade the server to 2023.2. We can see, is this actually going to affect the runtime potentially? So that was a quick presentation of how you can actually utilize some of the already existing macros that you have in, for example, crew environment, or at least how we utilize it. And then there are obviously 5 million different other use cases, but I think this is one of the more neat ones because it will save you a lot of time and frustration. So if you don't have it or you want it or anything in that area, just feel free to reach out. I'll be more than glad to give you a quick introduction as to how you can do it and set it up, and then you should be good to go.
Okay.
But most of you probably already have it if you're an Alteryx server person. So,
But we
If you
don't
don't-
have your modification. That add-on you sort of you put the log parser and the crew macro. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, you included it in the list runner. Yeah, that's great.
It's a nice little.
We use them separately.
Yeah.
Because we have, like, I think on every given day, we have almost 1,000 individual workflows running scheduled. And that's a lot to keep track of.
A lot of
problems.
recurring ones as well. So
Yeah.
don't.
So,
get sweaty.
and things always change. This is a dynamic IT environment that we're in. So suddenly some paths change, and then what used to work last week, suddenly it doesn't work this week, right? So it's a very, very good tool for keeping track of
It is
how things are performing.
very nice when the. Ask a question, please.
No, that it's not a question. It's just thank you very much for sharing the work you've done. It's always nice to see actual development demos and tools that other people have made. My favorite kind of entertainment as a nerd. And I just want to say it's so funny that you've modified the runner. I just did my own modification of the runner for a completely different purpose a month ago, modifying the regular crew macro runner to be able to choose any workflow and change the input of it and then read the output. So turning any workflow into a macro by modifying the runner. Which was amazing because I could just build upon what the great work that the crew macro did and just do some small modifications, and suddenly you have a completely different tool that solves a completely different problem. But it's nice to see that entire open source spirit, that's just and we've also been talking a lot about monitoring our workflows. We haven't done it in as sophisticated of a manner as you seem to have, but we definitely aspire to produce something similar to what you just showed in the near future. So it's nice to see how you've done that.
That's nice to know. You can set up in a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe even faster. So reach out if you need anything. I can easily provide you with the setup that we have.
I mean, please share the macro file if that's. I mean, there's probably some database connections that we need to change, but
and it doesn't have to be a database. You can also just use the regular output tool. But I'll do that.
Great.
I'll do that.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks to Johan. Let's go, and I think the next presentation actually is just you, Ahmed, so you can just continue taking it away.
Yeah,
Joe.
sure thing.
Yeah.
Let me see if I know how to share my screen.
Right next to the V button.
I'm always
that we are
baffled.
IT guys at all.
I'm really always baffled by my ability to be a developer and at the same time be really bad at using some Office products. It just doesn't sum up.
Often we just get these products and no one would like tells us about them. We just have to like figure it out on our own.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you figured it out.
You're good.
Right.
I did. You can
Cool.
see my presentation now, right?
Yes.
Great. All right. So first of all, thank you very much for having me today. I'm really excited to talk about always excited to talk about our data work here in Gladsaxe. I believe we are maybe the most ambitious, among the most ambitious public organizations when it comes to data in Denmark. So today I am going to talk about a very specific project that we fired up more than a year ago, codenamed Kadnai. I will eventually explain why it's called that if you don't discover that on your own. But I'll try to talk quickly about how our data setup is, and then I'll go on and briefly speak about some of the challenges that we were facing before developing this solution. Then my colleague Rune will show you a quick demo of the front end part of the solution. Is someone trying to ask a question? Oh, that was just there's a sound came up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then we'll dive into some behind the scenes information, and you guys can just let me know if you want to go further into that. I'll try to be brief, and then we'll talk about the future perspective of this project. So yeah. Please feel free to interrupt me if there are any questions after each slide. So if this works as intended, it does. Yeah. All right. So our data landscape, also known as the Wild West, is thousands of data files, more than 4,000 in active use. Around 2,000 workflows, Alteryx workflows and analytic apps, and more than 300 dashboards that are online. We have our data in SQL servers, I think 20 of those, so hundreds of databases, and other kinds of databases as well. We have some data sources on our Tableau server, and a lot of different kinds of local data files on a shared drive. Anything from YXDB files, CSV, XLS, Parquet, you name it. We have 20, I think, Alteryx Designer licenses, our Alteryx Gallery with our scheduled workflows, and then we have our Tableau dashboards. So that's a simplified version of our data landscape. So working with this, we here at a municipality have very high standards for and requirements for documenting our work, which can become difficult when building complicated data-driven solutions. It can be difficult to explain to a future person how this whole thing is put together and why. Another challenge that we've had before building this solution was working on other people's projects. People within the data field come and go and build solutions that others need to build, continue building and reuse. And understanding what other people have done can be really difficult when they have multiple workflows working with different kinds of data sets. It's hard to know where it starts and where it ends. Debugging your own projects can also be very difficult when you're working with many workflows and data sets. And finally, tidying up. I mean, we create so many workflows and data sets all the time, and we need to delete and remove the ones that are not being used. But knowing which ones are not being used can be really difficult. And so sometimes we end up removing something and then discovering that it was being used in a workflow that was producing a data set that was being used by another workflow that was then moving 5 steps ahead, actually being used in a very critical dashboard. So knowing the consequences of moving a file or deleting it can be very difficult. Not just simply migrating data as well can be extremely sensitive before we had the solution. So these were like some of the common challenges, and I'm sure many of you can recognize them yourselves. Very universal challenges. So we had a larger vision more than a year ago of building a centralized metadata solution where the entirety of our data landscape, our workflows, our dashboards, our data sets could all be discovered in one place. And we could see the relationships between these units, these processes and jobs and data units in one place and discover them. For debugging, for migrating, for understanding what work other people have done, and simply for documenting, having a place that automatically shows how data is moving throughout our organization was something we wanted to set up. There were, of course, some commercial solutions out there. Very often, this functionality was a simple functionality in a larger product. So finding a product that just solves this very large problem without having to buy a product that solves many other problems and pay for that was not that easy. So we decided to build it all ourselves. Also because we wanted to accompany the ecosystem that we have with the different kind of servers, the Tableau, the Power BI dashboards as well. Didn't mention that on the previous slide, the Alteryx workflows and so on. So I'm gonna actually begin by now by having my colleague Rune show you the final solution, and then we'll go into how it was built afterwards. So if you
I will share my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. The solution is on our Tableau server. And I will just give a few examples of what it can do. And let's say I want to examine a workflow. I know we have this workflow, but where is it and what does it? So I will try to find it and immediately see, well, we have two times this workflow. So let's just have a mouse over function and just see, okay, the first one, it is recently edited. It's edited by one of my colleague Michael's, and we have a full path where it's located. Let's see the other one. Oh, it's even more recently edited by another colleague, and it has another location. Okay, let's find out what it does. We go to the lineage view. So we have here, this is the workflow. This is what we choose for an icon for workflow. We have some icons for, we have an input file, also located on a file share, also recently edited. And it produces 3 files that are used as input in another workflows, and those workflows produce Tableau data. And at the end, we have some Tableau workbooks, dashboards on the server. Okay, let's see, what about the other one? Well, looks pretty much the same to me. So how can I use this? Well, I will say maybe it's not that good that we have two workflows doing the same thing, recently edited by two different colleagues. So maybe we should just say that the use cases here, let's put our two colleagues, Michael and Frederik, together, and they decide which one of the workflows that should do the job, because it's not that good that we have two workflows doing the same.
Yeah.
So that just an example of what you can do. I'll just give a quick another one.
And
then,
can I say, if they can't agree on which one to delete, they're just do a good old Western shoot off.
Yeah. This was an example of what we can do, like this, what we call it. We didn't have maybe we didn't have an error. Maybe you could have had an error of something because if those workflows also were on schedule and maybe there were conflicts or something like that. So we could find out why we had. I'll just have another one here. And this one is an example. There's only one, and I can see it's edited the last time by me, and it's not so long ago, a few months, and I can see it's on our Alteryx server. So it's on Gallery. It's in production, and let's just have a quick look at the lineage. This one is pretty simple, but what it can do is, I know it's producing an output. It's a data file on Tableau, and on Tableau we have two workbooks using that file. And what is here is more classic. We can see that the workflow uses a lot of inputs. And let me just say, show me some names. What are these? Of course, I need to know a little more about it, but I can see that this one is an SQL table, and I can see what system it's from, because we have a full part for our what system it is. Here we have some files, and that file is produced by another workflow that is used another file produced by another workflow.
Yeah.
So that's more classic going back. So this workbook over here depend on a workflow that has you wouldn't think that has anything to do with that workflow. And I just want to show a little more functionality, because if I really want to look at what does this workflow actually does, it produces a file that produces a workbook. So I can just hop into it here and see, okay, this is the end result. Is that dashboard? Now I know.
So from this solution, you can actually navigate to any local file, any Alteryx workflow, any workflow on the gallery or any dashboard. It will take you there directly. It'll figure out what action you need to take, and it will navigate you to that file. So you don't have to search for it afterwards.
If I want to find out where this file, I can see, take me there.
And then it will do a search for you on your local machine. Of course, if you can't see the file, if you don't have access to it, you won't be able to see it using the solution either. So there's security built in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will give the presentation back to you.
Yeah, thanks. So that was a simple introduction to our solution. You saw the front end, of course, which is the Tableau dashboard, and that is the final part of the solution. It's not the only front end solution that we built on top of this database, but it's the most important. So The hard work, of course, is getting the data ready for it to be shown in a Power BI or in a Tableau dashboard, any kind of dashboard. Really, the dashboard solution here isn't doing any kind of analysis or work. It's displaying data that has been nicely prepared, and that has been done entirely using Alteryx. So behind the scenes, we have around 25 workflows doing the work. And you could cut up the process in 7 steps. So the first thing that we're doing here is we are scanning. We're scanning for SQL files, databases. We're scanning for Alteryx workflows locally and on the gallery. We're scanning for dashboards as well, and for files on our shared drive. So after mapping our landscape, after knowing what units do we have that are part of our data landscape, we need to get these. Some of them are available because they're on our drive. Others are on the gallery or on the Tableau server. So we actually use some Alteryx workflows to download these files automatically and unpack them. When the entire data is centralized and the files themselves are available, we extract the XML of the Alteryx workflows and Alteryx apps. We also extract the XML of the Tableau data sources and the Tableau dashboards. So when the XML is extracted, most of the critical information that we need is inside the XML. The information about what kind of data the workflow imports and exports and what kind of data a dashboard uses is coded into the XML. So we have a couple of workflows that open up these different kinds of XML files and analyze their content. And the output of that is what kind of inputs and outputs does each workbook and workflow have. So now we have all our inputs and outputs. We also have a full-on list of all data files and tables and views and data sources that we have. And we need to connect the dots. We do that by doing network analysis inside of Alteryx. To be able to do that, we had to build custom macros that introduce network visualization analysis functionality. There is a single tool in Alteryx Designer that does some R-based network analysis, but we needed more sophisticated and fast network analysis tools to be able to build this network that you saw earlier, so that we could see where is the original flow of data start and where does it end. The final step when it comes to Alteryx here is to verify everything. So a workflow might be telling you that it's importing some data files, but do these data files exist? And we have some workflows on the gallery, but are they scheduled? Have they errored? So that verification needs to be done so that we can more intelligently show it. We also need to verify who's the owner of this workflow, who edited it last time. So that's the final step that we do. Now that everything is done, we can put it into a database, and then based on that, we could visualize it in any visualization tool. Alteryx is also doing the core visualization part, because it's actually creating coordinates for these points so that they can be plotted as a network afterward. Because Tableau doesn't have network visualization capability. So the network macros that we've built are calculating the optimal position for each node using some graph algorithms, and then giving us a nice data set that we can use directly to visualize our network. So this is the lineage of our pipeline to build data lineage, or this network. And if you haven't if you haven't figured it out yourself yet, the reason why we've called this Cotton Eye Joe, because the main question we're trying to answer is, for each data file, where did it come from and where did it go? Hence, Cotton Eye Joe. So that's what most of the network looks like. It's a bit difficult to use lineage to visualize everything. For example, scanning our directories, and doing API calls is not integrated into this solution yet. But this is what the whole thing looks like. So I don't know if any of you. Yeah, there's a question.
Yes. Hi. I have a question. I love the thing about sort of using storytelling with the Cotton.io, but I was looking further into it, and to know the meaning of it. Cotton.io, it is being drunk on moonshine and actually getting blinded.
Yeah.
So it might be if some look further into it, you know, they might get sort of the wrong impression. What is it really about?
Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes when I stumble upon some data files, they remind me of a blind drunk person that doesn't know where it came from and where it went.
Definitely.
So,
but it makes it so much better using such actually storytelling. It's very, very good, and it gets people to understand it better, even though there might be another meaning, and you can actually use that other meaning and say, well, before it was like that, but now we are getting enlightenment because we take it step by step.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, personally, I'm very excited about working with metadata, but it can be a really dry subject to talk to others about. Even people working within data directly, it can be hard to make metadata sexy. So figuring out funny puns and metaphors have been essential for this project to succeed, because it has taken quite some resources to actually make the whole thing work. I can just go back, like scanning the gallery and scanning the Tableau server. It requires reading up on a lot of documentation on the REST APIs that have been developed. And now we've migrated to a new server, so we also had to adjust the macros that are doing API calls to actually be compatible with the new API, but also backward compatible. So there's a lot of technical work, and we're also running some PowerShell scripts that are powering through our entire directory to look for files that are relevant. So yeah, having a little bit of humor, it can be essential for such a tedious and requiring project to succeed. I'm glad to hear that you've enjoyed it as well. I mean,
what are you doing on governance regarding making sure that people follow it and going forward, that once you have a new thing?
That's a great question. I mean, as I said, this is not the only solution that we built. We've produced a lot of data building this pipeline. So this is one of the things we're using is for a data analyst, you can go in and look up any data file, any table, any workflow or dashboard and see its dependencies. But we've also used it to actually, not so long ago, to do a lot of cleaning up. So let's say I wanted to delete this workflow, or I needed to move a lot of files from one directory to another. Having this tool have been essential for us to be able to actually do this migration, to know what other files do we need to do, what kind of references to files do we need to fix, rather than moving things, breaking them, and then trying to fix everything afterwards, which is sometimes not possible when it's a critical infrastructure that we're building.
Yeah. Our clean up exercise took place at our Tableau, so it was workbooks nobody was using anymore. But instead of just saying this workbook is not used anymore, let's delete it. Let's just check out what lineage says, so we can clean up also the behind the workbook workflows that are not used anymore, or should they be put to an archive, or also just deleted, or also the data that was behind, was it some specific data just for that, or was it another data, or should also be archived or deleted?
Yeah.
So that make it more complicated, but also more a full cleanup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
how long did it take for you guys to develop this? Like to where you are today. Obviously, it sounds like you have some features you want to add on, but
Yeah, I mean,
What we're
it's been working, I would say problem-free for a year, more than a year now. It took us 3 to 4 months, I would say, for going from an idea to actually having a visualization that you could look at. And first time these visualizations came up, the lines were intersecting way more than what you're seeing right now, and not everything was aligned perfectly, but it took, I would say, 3 to 4 months to figure out all the parts. And then we've done some minor improvements since, and there's still some improvements that can be done to add even more data to this.
Yeah, maybe you should show the macros of that.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, this is a collection of 25 workflows cut up into these 7 steps that you can see here. So going through them is not gonna be possible. However, I could show you, we have this single workflow that is part of the 5th step of building the network. And so what I have here is data files showing each unit. So this is 1 row per workflow or per data file or per table. And here I have my inputs and my outputs. So taking these 2, I could use this macro that we custom built to actually build a family tree or the network that you see. So this is gonna iteratively go through each connection and weave it into a network. Yeah, so that's one example of one of the workflows that we built.
you're doing it horizontally. It's always fun to see how other people set up their workflows.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me some time to figure out what works for me, but the thing I like about working with this is that it looks more like a document.
Yeah, I agree.
And coming from a programming background, this is a bit more satisfying than something that goes in one direction.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
very nice.
Yeah.
And I also like, I mean, this is so general. I mean, this problem that you're addressing is something that any organization of a certain size is suffering from.
Yeah.
Really
Absolutely.
cool.
Really nice.
And speaking of this problem being universal, that brings us to the last point, which is the future perspectives. So of course we need to integrate more functionality into this. We could add knowledge about API calls that are being made. Dynamic tools can be tricky to really actually know what kind of data they're reading because they're using a star or it's dynamic, so you have to do more analysis. That's where network tools can be powerful, of course, to actually infer what kind of data they're reading or writing.
Actually, it doesn't read our list runners.
Yeah, and then there's runners. I mean, we do actually analyze what runners run which workflows, but we haven't found a way to meaningfully display that information. So we have in our database knowledge about what runners run which workflows, but it's not available in the end solution. So there are little things here and there. And then, of course, this started with a much bigger vision of having centralized metadata. So it doesn't end with data lineage, but lineage has definitely been the most central. And speaking of metadata, there are open source solutions out there that you can download and fire up. We haven't done that ourselves yet. I don't know if any of you are familiar with them. Open Metadata and DataHub are probably 2 of the biggest players in this game. And they have a lot of connectors to Tableau, but not as far as I know to Alteryx. So much of this work that have been done here, if we decide to move on to a more industry level solution that is developed by others, the work of actually wrangling through the metadata of Alteryx workflows can be transferred to a bigger solution, such as Open Metadata or DataHub. But that's definitely worth looking into rather than building the rest of this from the bottom up like we did here. And then I would finally really like to invite you to join the dance. We would definitely love to share the elements of our work here that any of you might find useful and will want to play with yourselves. And I hope that that would also mean, if any of you are interested, that you would maybe contribute to this also, so it doesn't live within Gladsaxe Kommune and die here as well. Yeah, that was it for me.
Very nice. Very nice.
Very cool.
It was
Thanks,
nice to
Ahmed.
see that. Yeah, thank
Very
you.
nice.
It is
Very nice.
It will survive in NKTP at one point, I think, to some extent. Don't you worry. I can only see that happening.
Okay, well, time is flying and we have only 15 minutes left. I think the next steps here is to, now we will be upscaled to be an official group. That means that we're going to get a group page that you can more easily find on the Maverick site. So I can only encourage people to do that, to join there and get the notifications switched on. The next meetings, last meeting, we just thought that why not at this Wednesday seems to be a good day. And I've suggested some times here that unless anyone has any big problems at these times, I think we could stick with them. So one for each quarter. And I'm going to make a meeting recap and post the video of this so that we have that information available as well. The slides will be in that video. And then there was the issue of, at the next meeting, we'd like to have 1 or 2 presentations. And it's always great to have volunteers rather than forced labor. So are there any ideas? Anyone sitting with something that they'd like to share?
Should there be something about the AI in Alteryx? Give a presentation from
Mikael could
Yeah,
maybe talk about
I will
that.
have one heading there, so please add me to one of these sessions there.
Yeah, perfect. That's one.
We still have some credit. I mean, we could spin up some of the things that are already, available just to show where we're headed. I mean, we're already paid for it, so we can spin up something, I think. Also AI. We'll do an AI session next time.
That could be a nice theme, actually. Yeah, sure.
Carolina, you have a
Yes, I had a suggestion timing-wise. Was thinking June 12th. I don't know for Denmark, but I know for Sweden, a lot of people might be going on vacation already then. So maybe if the March one would be moved to February and the June one to May.
In June, it's June 12th is okay. That's the week. That's okay. In Sweden, at least.
Yeah, I think that it does what people are still working, but I think that it's so close to midsummer that I don't know if they will be working.
Yeah, I think so.
Or we could maybe just move the June 12th to 1 week earlier. Would that be beneficial?
Yeah, I think that would be better, as long as it's not on the 6th, if we want Sweden.
Yeah, no, it's the 5th.
June 12th, June 5.
No, not June 5.
Not June 5?
Grundlovsdag.
Oh, yeah.
That's Grundlovsdag in Denmark. Oh,
It's June 12th, and we'll see how it goes. We also have the recap.
But I mean, like we could take a look. So it's like I have a good calendar with like all the Nordic holidays. So I'll check so it doesn't hit.
Okay. Good luck. End of May, 1st of June.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. It's a terrible time of year in terms of vacations.
All right, so we'll do something, Belgo, and Michael, you'll also do something. It seems like for March.
Yes, I do.
It's signed up there. That's great. There was the issue of emails. It's always a little bit difficult to communicate on the Maverick site. I don't know if that will change when we become an official group. But if you're willing, then if you could write your email on the chat for this meeting here, then we can collect them, and then we have a little bit better way of communicating between ourselves. So okay with that? I asked about it last time as well, and somehow I managed not to get them scraped. And now when I open up the meeting, it's all gone. So I managed to screw that up.
Boomer.
Yep. That's what these guys call me all
Great
the
then.
time. Yep.
Just copy paste.
We'll make it web
Yeah.
scraping.
And then pick out your phone and take a picture of this little guy here and see if you can complete the survey. Then Alteryx will be happy, and I think they'll also share it with us so we can see how we're doing. And I think that's all, unless there's any questions we can take here at the end. Okay, well, I think that's wrapping it up from here. This was some really good presentations. I mean, I was
Yes, very good.
really fascinated by the stuff that I saw from Gladsaxe.
Really good.
So thanks for sharing that, Ahmed.
Of course.
All right. Perfect.
Thank
Looking
you
forward
very
to next
much.
time already.
Yeah. See you guys next time.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Enjoy
Yes.
Christmas and New Year's.
Bye.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye
you.
all.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Have a lovely Lucia.
Yeah, the Swedish one.
We did it, man.
Good job.